actually. Not going to have access to that Zoe. He gets banned out first, alongside the Graves away from Kongya, as well as the Aphelios away from Wako.
Yeah, the Aphelios ban is the one I do want to touch on, and that's largely because we mentioned time and time again, Aphelios struggles into long-range AD carries like Ashe, like Ezreal. The issue is that if you counterpick with the signature Sivir of Lil V, Sivir is not long-range, Sivir will get mowed down accordingly, and if you're gonna prioritize an AD carry in Champ Select, you do have to trim away the Aphelios from Wako's champ pool.
Does mean that's the first pick, Ashe, coming out once again on blue side. It's going to go ahead and get locked in here for Lil V. Interesting that they have decided to do this, because Lil V was always able to fall back onto picks like a Sivir as well, so interesting that they put so much priority on him instead of opting to maybe try and get something on over to Nesty or Hana off the bat. But on the meanwhile for AHQ, showing the Syndra very early on here for Uniboy, likely in the mid lane, and then that Volibear that could be flexed between Ziv or Kongya in the jungle.
Yeah, I would like to see the Thresh locked in here just because pick potential is insane, and we've seen Woody and Ysera, as we mentioned, having largely the same champ pool in that regard. Just look at our previous game as to how devastating Ashe plus Thresh can be as a duo. Granted that level 2 shenanigans probably won't happen again this time, so yeah, should be pretty smooth sailing for Lil V and Woody. But yeah, as you mentioned, you do have that dual flex pick of Syndra and Volibear, so I do like what HQ have shaped up so far as well.
We'll see here for the top lane, though. It does look like that Rest is going to opt into something like a Renekton, a rather safe blind pick going up into Ziv, and for Ziv, he'll have an option of what he wants to actually bring up into this matchup. Are we going to see that carry be carry? Is it actually going to be a Volibear top? Or are you going to fall back to something a little bit more utility-like? That does mean, though, for Wako, maybe they go ahead and just get the AD carry locked in immediately and possibly go for this Jhin that has been popping up with the resurgence of Ashe.
Yeah, Jhin, of course, that global answer to the Ashe, but does put a lot of pressure on you to be super proactive and aggressive in the early stages of the game in particular. You could pair this Jhin with my very favorite support in Blitzcrank, but I'm not sure if Ysera wants to do that. It's a good matchup into Thresh, and it's a good matchup into what J-Team have right now in mobile carries like the Ashe, but at the same time, it's a little bit of a risk when it comes down to actually how safe that champion can be.
Yeah, maybe you don't actually want to be hooking in on a Renekton. You know, possibly if Rest is able to get ahead, it can be a little bit ugly. You can, you know, rip apart your poor squishy members, and you kind of just get a little bit sad. Let's take a look, though, of what the bans are going to be coming on through for both of these sides as we head into Phase 2. AHQ going to go ahead and get rid of the Gragas away from Hana, as the jungle pool looks to be the target, as they have not been able to lock that in inside of Taipei J-Team. Meanwhile, getting rid of some support options that could be paired up alongside that Jhin, like you mentioned, possibly maybe going to ban out that Blitzcrank, as it has been kind of the answer to sometimes Thresh, but no, opting to get rid of the Kennen, trying to limit what Civ could possibly do from that top lane.
Yeah, Kennen, one of the safest range top laners in the game right now, and of course would make this Renekton's life hell. AHQ could just hold their top lane matchup till last and just lock in a support here. I don't like the Tahm Kench. Yes, you can bully with the Tongue Lash in lane because Thresh, while being a range champ, is fairly low range to begin with. But at the same time, it's not a playmaker. Your engage is now severely hampered. And honestly, this bot lane does seem fairly susceptible to a dive early if J-Team are coordinated.
Yeah, we have been seeing the Kench actually come out a little bit more. I think it's in the LCS, it's kind of popped up, but it hasn't been seeing a whole lot of success. But here for Taipei J-Team, I know during one of the breaks here, Briz, you were mentioning when are we going to see the Karthus, because Hana was the one player to bring it out before 10.14 last weekend, and it is going to be picked in now after the changes coming through.
You can actually run it mid into Syndra with Exhaust, by the way, so there's still a distinct possibility we may see that in Nesty's hand, especially since he does trend towards these more utility-focused mid laners. That is not the Karthus mid, but at the same time, it is a utility-focused mid.
All right, there you go. It's going to be the Kiana getting locked in, unless we're seeing, you know, a very weird swap up, but two brand new picks, actually. Well, one new brand new pick, one niche pick that we only seen once here so far from Taipei J-Team, but This is, again, expanding that champion pool when it comes to Nesty in that mid lane. Now for AHQ, are you going to opt into something like an Ornn just so you have that reliable CC with that Call of the Forge God, as well as the knock-up and just being that beefy front line?
Yeah, the Empowered W from the Renekton does strip away the Volibear shield, so sending the Volibear top lane is a little bit of a risk, especially considering some itemization woes early against some of these more industrious melee lane bullies. That being said though, fairly standard team comp coming out of AHQ. You have long range engage, you have good pick potential between Jhin, and solid rotations across the map. The real interesting part of this draft though will be how Karthus Qiyana executes. You have the global threat of an Ash Arrow, of a Thresh Hook, just, further adding pick dynamic, not quite globally, but still pretty cool to see. And that sick mid jungle 2v2 has a lot of damage, but not much else.
Yeah, you're putting a lot of pressure here on these immobile carries, especially early on until you get a couple items, at least when you take a look toward that Syndra, once you're looking for that level 11 power spike with the Ludens to really come online. Before that, easily Ash Arrow should just be thrown down the mid lane. Same thing also for Jhin, and unfortunately there's only one Kench, so you can only eat up one of those carries if both of them get caught out, and one without the other is going to be rather hard for AHQ to bring back a fight. So we will see how this gets executed for Taipei J team, looking to remain at the top of the standings and expand that now win column to 11 if they're able to take down AHQ. And for them as well, look to expand the gap between them and that mid pack that are all fighting for the top of the table as we go ahead and load onto the Rift for our second game of the day.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Even rocking the new Karthus skin as well. Full, just bringing out all the tricks here on 10.14. All right, it seems for Hana has opted for.
Is the green a league partner chroma? Or
I believe so.
Just...
I think that's the new Infernal skin, if I do recall, and I think there is a green chroma for it. So he's even flexing. All right, already coming in and flexing because his account.
Like, yeah, I have friends that are in the league partner program.
He also has an unlocked account because we do play, on the proper servers here, Briz.
That is fair. I do want to touch on the fact, by the way, that I mentioned the mid-jungle 2v2 pretty devastating from the side of J team. It's not like this Ornn doesn't have big disengage through his ultimate. Syndra QE as well, Jhin Snare from a distance. AHQ have options, and they're going to need to use those to keep the Karthus and the Qiyana out of their backlines, because as you mentioned back in Champ Select, you only have one Devour, you only have one real get-out-of-jail-free card, and that does mean that if J team can get these big, scary backline threats into the enemy team, AHQ could be in a lot of trouble.
I'm just happy again that we get to see for Hana his Karthus once again, because we saw it a little bit last week. Was able to pick up a quadra kill at the end of their game that they had. It was absolutely devastating. I already see a little bit of defensive wards also coming out, saying, all right, don't want to get invaded by this Volibear. And this is, I guess, kind of the one kind of instance for Kongyu at the very least, that he likely won't be having a jungler try and invade onto him, especially rather early. Usually your Karthus tries to stay within his own jungle, stay safe, and try and get some levels in, and try and rush in for that level 6.
Yeah, typically Karthus, though, does need to go buff, and then start clearing, just because his single target clear with Q, fantastic. The Lay Waste, of course, dealing more damage to isolated targets, but doesn't really rack up that AoE clear till he gets a little bit more wind beneath his sails. I do want to touch on a small mechanic that you're seeing from Hana, though, is that he waits for 1 second, 4 ticks of the new Defile, then toggles it off, then back on again. That is because you get an extra tick just by the reactivation, and that does help, and it does add up into making that jungle clear a little bit faster, especially early. That's why you see him keep it on for 1 second, 4 ticks, turn it off, turn it back on, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, because they made the tick rate actually a little bit faster for him. It does damage every quarter of a second, if I do believe. Was meant to just kind of make his damage feel a little bit, have a little bit more flow, at least when it came to his lane, but also, like you mentioned, can be used as a mechanic. And with that defensive ward that was laid down by Hana, it's also given that information where Kongya is in the jungle, as Nesty will keep himself safe.
Yeah, but the issue is that because Nesty is trending towards the top side of that mid lane because he's playing up, it means that he's playing towards the side his jungler is on, and that means that AHQ have a good indication that Hana is on this top side. It's why you see Ziv hugging his turret, and it's why you see Kongyue actually making a beeline for this contested Krug camp.
Do see, though, Krugs are going to be taken down, at least leaving some little ones here, so Kongya does know that has happened, but nonetheless, Hana goes on back to base, so we won't be seeing any conflict, at the very least, for our early couple levels here of the jungle. Maybe Kongya wants to try and make it beeline toward top lane, but not going to be the case. And speaking of the top lane, this was kind of our featured matchup. Of course, this is Civ returning back into the league after nursing his wrist injury for the last 4 weeks. Rest during this entire time has kind of been the king of top lane, kind of taking that throne away from Civ. And this time, it's not a carry v carry matchup, so we're not going to probably see too much skirmishing, but I think the team fights will be a good indicator to see how well Ziv is integrating back into the team.
Genuinely, though, I am a little bit concerned, considering it is an Ornn matchup. It's kind of a non-interactive top lane, as it were, but he is suffering quite a bit when it comes to the CS numbers, whether that's an indication of Ziv just being a little bit behind in terms of relative stage experience as of the past couple of weeks, or if it's just because, you know, this is a pretty bad matchup to navigate, and giving Rest a good matchup when, as you mentioned, he's been king of the top lane as of recent, is not the greatest idea from the side of AHQ.
Well, that's the thing, though, that we have seen from Civ is, in a majority of the matchups, especially come spring, he was always put onto a losing matchup in almost every scenario that we saw. It was rare that AHQ would actually draft for him to have a good top side. Instead, opted to play into more of these tanks and CC champions that were a little bit more impactful come team fights, and that's kind of why he was always stable. Even if he had himself a bad matchup, it was rare that we'd lose too much in the lane. We do see, though, AHQ, with that information from the Raptor camp being taken, does mean they go ahead and start up the Dragon, take it down, but Civ up in this top lane might be this unfortunate sacrifice in the end. Call the Fortune God comes on through, he gets stunned up, going to try and get himself back on over to safety, but that is first blood going on over to the Karthus.
Yeah, waiting with the Renekton W till the Ornn knockback came on the way back. As soon as the Ram is about to connect, stun the Ornn, he can't headbutt, he can't get that knockback, can't get the wave clear, and just gets dove. Ziv tries his best to survive, but in the end, it's just a very, very good coordinated roam up from Hana and Nesty. J-Team's mid-jungle duo, as soon as they get an indication that AHQ are on the bot side of the map doing the Drake, decide to move in aggressively and get a kill to reward themselves for it.
And Karthus loves early kills. Getting that first blood gold helps get that Karthus kind of jump started immediately. So not a bad start here for Taipei J-Team AHQ. They decide to trade at least first blood for the first dragon of the game. We'll see if they can continue pressure. And I think, again, yeah, it comes down to how Nesty and Hana are actually able to move as a duo. Already looking good so far here in the first 7 minutes up against AHQ.
Yeah, gonna need to see a little bit more of that from Nesty in particular, though, because he's already suffering so hard in that mid lane. Down about 3.5 waves in terms of raw CS, whether that was just a consequence of the roam or just because you're playing melee into a ranged matchup. Really not the greatest of scenarios for this Kiana to find herself in, and does put the burden of execution on Nesty to continue making things happen.
Speaking of lane matchups, so let's go ahead and take a look down toward that bot lane. We did mention that Wako has decided to go for this Jhin, which has been kind of the answer for Ashe now that she's come back into the meta, and currently sitting about 2 waves up over Lil V, but Lil V has always been kind of known to not necessarily get ahead too far in lane. Usually just power farms away and then becomes more of a threat when the team fights come online around 20 minutes.
Yeah, definitely do have to consider Lil V the reliable late-game carry of this lineup. I mentioned that Nesty, again, very, very good at facilitating on his signature Galio at times. But looking at Lil V here as being the primary carry for this team comp because this Kiana is just all about the roams and setting up the rest of the team for success yet again.
Well, looking for roams here. You did see that Uniboy was looking to fish up for a possible play onto the Kiana. Had an idea of maybe where they were, and looks like bot lane has actually come up toward the top side of the map as the first Rift Herald has spawned. So we'll see here how Taipei J team actually look to try and respond to this one, as you do have actually Runic Echoes already completed here for Hana. So that's actually a decent little spike. We'll see whether or not they actually want to go for a fight here. Woody's kind of caught out toward the side. You do see Rest wants to come on in. Teleport also going to come on out. Hook lands onto the Kench, and meanwhile, that's going to be the volley bear to the back line. They get themselves the kill onto the Karthus immediately. Sure, you have the Requiem coming out. Unfortunately, the damage is already done. Kongyu will fall in the end. Rest, though, needs to get himself back to safety. Wako able to step up, claims the Rift Herald for AHQ as they're able to find one kill. Nesty one and maybe want to try and trade back onto Uniboy. Not going to happen, though. Gets the Lantern back to safety. It's a 2-for-1, and the Rift Herald in favor of AHQ.
Yeah, you actually see a delayed rotation from J-Team there. They keep their AD carry bot for as long as possible to try and fix this wave. They want to shove it in. They want to crash it into the tower before committing for this. But in the end, when the Ashe TP's in, it's into an Ornn ult, followed by the Jhin full combo, and it's just immediate death for Lil V as soon as he gets in there.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're okay if your Karthus dies. Of course, he has his passive to still do damage during a team fight. Ashe, on the other hand, well, her passive is slowing on her auto attacks, not for dealing damage upon death. So maybe not the right call here for Lil V. And we mentioned, you know, usually Lil V, he doesn't really come online until 20 minutes in most of his playstyle, so maybe expecting a bit too early from him, and a little bit of a misstep coming out from Taipei J team ends up costing him that little lead that they were able to find in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, definitely do have to keep a big eye on Lil V and Hana now because they are your mid to late game insurance. Kiana, as we mentioned, a lot of utility, a lot of pressure on her to perform early. The issue is that you're a bit of a one-trick pony come late game where you're essentially hoping to blow up whichever carry isn't directly next to Tahm Kench.
Speaking of the Kench, might need to utilize that Devour, as we do see Taipei J team looking to at least occupy toward the bot side of the map. Second Dragon has spawned. Rift Herald, though, is going to be popped mid. Nesty, he went for a roam, and this mid lane matchup is starting to get a little bit out of control early here as Uniboy is going to get a bunch of turret plating injected onto the Syndra, as well as has about a 30 CS lead over that Kiana at only 11 minutes.
And despite Lil V's best efforts to fix that bot wave leading up to the Herald play, huge CS deficit now manifesting there as well, and the carries for J-Team really suffering in these early stages.
Yeah, the major amount of gold actually being made up here by Taipei J team to even keep the gold rather even has been pretty much been put entirely on this Renekton, but Rest, unfortunately, is not joining this fight just yet. There it is, the teleport. Might be a little bit late, though, as that Dragon's going to go down rather quickly. Hana wants to try and step up, though. It is going to get secured by Kongyu. Call the Forge God, able to find the knock-up onto Nesty. Arrow comes out immediately from Lil V, but it's on to the Kench. Is that who you want to put it down? Requiem able to get a little bit of damage. Into the backline, Rest goes, and he takes down Uniboy. Wako able to get some damage over toward the side. Flash on forward coming out from Hana. Nesty wants to join in onto the fight, and they're able to get the hook onto the Jhin, but he does take down the Kiana at the very end. Kongyu now with a re-engage on that volley bear, able to find the stun, trying to get himself back over to safety with the Sky Splitter, but Hana is going to be able to find the kill.
Good cleanup on the tail end of that by J-Team. They lose the Drake, but they find the fight. Kongyu, Uniboy, and Wako all drop in the face of an onslaught from the side of J-Team. In the end, however, I think it's a 3-for-3, so AHQ more than happy to walk away with this mini win.
And with that, that gets them their second stack. We'll take a look here as Lil V, again, he just walks up into three members trying to expect him just to survive.
Yeah, just getting Jinned, unfortunately, at that point. Speaking of Jhin, by the way, Wako caught out, as we said, just kind of snares himself while he casts Curtain Call. Doesn't respect the fact that he can just get collapsed upon during that. And yeah, while Rest does come for the cleanup, it's at the expense of pretty much everyone else on this team.
So a little bit more action when it comes to the team fights, but for AHQ, it's their second dragon of the game. Is going to be an Ocean Soul for our second game of day 2. Meanwhile, bot lane, Wako able to push in, also get some quick damage onto Rest himself as they look to try and get some turret plating back on over to this Jhin that has actually been starting to pick up a couple kills off the tail end of some of these fights and now currently sits 2-1-3.
Yeah, a large amount of insurance coming through from AHQ when they do commit to these objectives, by the way. Volibear Smite Bite, not quite the Elise's, but at the same time, it's still a decent enough execute that it's a very, very difficult ask of Hana to actually secure some of these objectives. And speaking of that Volibear, now making his presence felt in the bottom lane, you do have the AHQ bot side fully committing for a Tower First Blood hit.
There you go, first brick gold, going to go on over to the Kench as well as the Jhin. And there you go. Some extra gold being injected. We already saw some turret plating being taken as it just crested over the 14 minutes just now. So Wako sitting in a very pretty spot, just finishing off his Infinity Edge as well as his Swiftness boots. So he has a little bit extra move speed during some of these fights, and we'll be cashing in on that call here in about 2 waves.
I leaned into my microphone, ready to ASMR cast this Karthus who's just been quietly farming up the storm. Well, that's what we get for saying the game was too quiet for the past minute or so.
And Lil V again.
Lil V
gets caught out. Not too sure why you're doing there in mid lane. Going up against the Syndra, Uniboy, who's level 11, by the way. Has pretty much the rank 2 into that ultimate. Sure, it isn't a Ludens, but still a GLP that'll lock you down. And
yeah,
speaking,
a lot of burst.
Lockdown.
No.
Woody goes into stasis. Unfortunately for him, he'll get lined up for that Kern call, and Wako finds his 3rd kill on the Jhin.
AHQ are gunning for this 100% win rate Thresh time and time again now, just shutting down J-Team. Yes, they're the favorites to win this matchup, but AHQ are having none of that. Kongyue getting the biggest, longest range Volibear engage I've seen from that champion in quite some time. And honestly, it was really well executed by the mid-jungle duo of AHQ.
I want to know what makes me happy here, Briz. I think that's the first time I've seen Volibear ultimate used to actually disable a tower and go for a dive on AD carry in the PCS in about 2 weeks. So I'm happy to see that coming out of AHQ. And you know what? So far, this early game, you've been able to get gold onto the Syndra. You've been able to get multiple kills now onto the Jhin itself. This is rather going quite well for them, considering they are going up against Taipei J-Team that currently sits with only 1 loss so far on the season.
Can I just mention how much I absolutely adore the Karthus pick, by the way, even though it hasn't found much success so far? Really, really like seeing it clear, really like seeing it scale. Issue is, we're at level 10, awful time for any champ that is ultimate damage dependent to actually fight. This is coming from a Rumble 1 trick, so you know it's genuine. Honestly, the Karthus is a late game insurance policy, but if AHQ continue to take control of this game, it's what we said we needed to see from Alpha last game, where if you're an early game team, you need the Drakes. You need that soul win condition at 25 odd minutes to really hammer home whatever lead you build for yourself. In AHQ, they've held on to these Drakes, and they will continue to push for them now.
Unfortunately, too, for Hana, like, you're still 1 level away until you get that rank 2 into your ultimate to get a little bit extra damage. AHQ, they're looking to just possibly see whether or not Taipei J-Team, if someone's going to get caught out. Rest able to get himself away with a slice, but you do see Hana waiting on the other side of the wall. AHQ not looking to back on down. Volley not going to connect onto any members. Choke point, though, you got to be careful, especially when that is just a quick scatter the weak combo coming out from Uniboy. Meanwhile, though, turret is going to fall. Looks like down toward that bot lane. It's AHQ a little bit late here toward that party, but nonetheless, it was going to fall either way. As Hana a little bit low here. He wants to try and get in toward this fight and maybe pop his passive. He is going to die, but Uniboy maybe hunting for some kills. Nesty over along a side of flank with that Kiana could look for the play. Kench is going to get the arrow taken in. Hook is going to land over towards Ziv. In comes the Requiem. There comes your damage, and there comes your kill as Nesty is able to find it. Meanwhile, though, Dragon is secured by AHQ. Current call came out from Wako, able to interrupt a little bit of the fight, and they won't lose anyone else. A Dragon for your top lane.
Yeah, the Karthus kind of snares himself when he casts the Requiem just a screen away from the Drake. And a big pickup for Kongyue, really cementing that AHQ have full dominion around these neutral objectives. Rest, hard commits, zones out 3 people. Uniboy is nowhere in this fight, by the way, and yet AHQ still come out with the teamfight victory and still come out with that Drake.
There you go, too. They also have that Rift Herald still in their back pocket if they wanted to try and lay down one of these towers, as Waka's going to head on back to base, now finishing off his rapid fire as well. And you mentioned, so far AHQ, they've been able to line up for this Soul now at about 22, 23 minutes and trying to accelerate this game as fast as possible. I think just the Rift Herald being used because it was going to time out either way, as wasn't going to get there mid lane in time.
Yeah, seen that way too many times so far this weekend, actually, where you have the Rift Herald just being popped in a random lane. That being said, though, it has worked out time and time again, and now presents something for J-Team to have to deal with in that top side. It also gives a point of the map for HQ to play around if they really want to. I would have liked to have seen them make plays mid or bot and just leave the Herald to its own devices top. But hey, if you want to bolster it, if you want to reinforce it and crack open this top lane tier 1, why not?
And there you go, too. Waka is going to get the credit as well as some of the gold, so not bad. Gets it. He's happy. They get something out of the Rift Herald. Baron, though, will be spawning here in about 10 seconds. Maybe a little bit early to be considering that, but you do see that AHQ. Currently, game kind of feels like it's in their hands on how it goes here. If they're able to continue to play decently aggressively, force the issue when it comes to the next Dragon, it's going to rely on Taipei J-Team to have to turn around a fight that just hasn't been going in their favor in most cases.
Absolutely, and you know, these previous fights, the prior fights, really do set the tone for the rest of the game. Should the game not go on for another 15 odd minutes, you need to scale up on Lil V's Ashe, you need to scale up on Hana's Karthus, and the issue is that even if they do get big, positioning errors have been rife so far, to the point where I'm afraid that even if the carries do get a lot of gold under their belts and a lot of items, you'll still just see them get popped because for some reason they're in the enemy backline or tanking a full duration curtain call to the face.
Or, you know, just taking a full unleash power from Uniboy. That's another option, too. As Lil and ST have to keep themselves distant away from Uniboy. Might be difficult, though, as he is going to be hunting around with that GLP that he has in hand and looking to finish off or just hold on to the Oblivion Orb for a little bit of extra penetration. 90 so seconds until we get ourselves the next Dragon of the game. And looks like that will be AHQ's priority, as they're going to bring down Uniboy and Kongyu. Just try and get some vision down, as Rest, though, at least going to try and get the scuttle before anything happens.
Yeah, Rest trying to secure this one, because 1 minute 30 on that Ocean Soul. When that does come through, suddenly these unkillable carries become even more unkillable. Tahm Kench be damned at that point. And honestly, looking at AHQ right now, they're in a good position to fight. They're in a good position to A, find backline access, and B, keep Hana away from the Syndra and the Jhin. And that does mean that they now have the onus when it comes to these crazier skirmishes around that neutral objective in 1 minute's time.
You do feel now, though, that Civ, well, up in that top lane, not afraid to just barrel into Nesty. But speaking here of tops, let's take a look back on over to Rest, because we have mentioned that so far during this split, he's kind of, you know, taken that king of top lane away from Ziv with his absence. Sits about 50 CS above the Ornn. To be expected, though, you are Renekton going at that, as he's been split pushing most of this game, and now has to kind of act as that bridge for Taipei J-Team if they want to try and get themselves back into this game and try and stall things out for, say, this Karthus as well as this Ashe scale.
Yeah, looking at this Ashe in particular, who, you know, we've had a couple of reservations about Lil V's positioning this game, considering he's been so reliable, so consistent for this team in the past. I don't know if he just decides to wake up now.
Maybe it was Wako, actually, that has been decided as he gets stunned up by a beautiful combo coming out from the supreme display of talent. Requiem came down, but it's still not enough damage. Curtain Call is going to be popped. They're going to go ahead and get themselves out of that field range, though, as Uniboy not going to get blown up as Rest cannot find the target. W will get necked from Wako, but that is every ultimate burned on the map here just before the spawn here of the Ocean Drake.
Yeah, Kongyue can go for a Miracle Steal if he so wants, but it's a bit of a flip at this point. TP
tries to walk in, not going to happen though as TP comes out from Civ. No call to Forge God. Let's see though, is AHQ able to clean up on the back end of this fight, or they themselves actually may be the ones that follow as the Qs are landing here from Hana. The shutdown comes in for Nestea, and there you go, Taipei J-Team. They finally find the fight in their favor, taking down the Dragon, delaying the Soul, as well as picking up 3 kills.
Yeah, Nestea getting a lot of distance on that Kiana as well, just diving into the enemy backline. A lot of commitment from the side of J-Team, but it pays off. Lil V TPing mid could suggest that we see J-Team actually hard commit for this Baron power play.
See if that's going to be the case. Maybe looking for a flank, though, as Uniboy might get caught out himself. Q will land onto the Kiana, but there you go. Taipei J-Team start up the Baron. Konya, unfortunately, way too far to try and answer. No ultimate available for him to even get across the wall if he wanted to, and it's up to Uniboy to maybe find that Miracle Steal. Gets a nice stand aside, scatter the weak himself, but there you go. It is going to get secured by Nestea. A bit scary when it is your Kiana securing it. Went down to 80 health, so there was the opportunity for Uniboy, but nonetheless, Taipei J-Team, Baron buff in hand.
Yeah, a lot of respect being given by Uniboy there to just back off as soon as he realizes he probably isn't getting that one. J-Team, they get the Baron off of a crazy fight that denies Soul, and suddenly J-Team are back in the driver's seat this game.
So there we go. It took them a little while, but 25 minutes. Things are starting to come online for this composition, as well as delaying that Soul away from AHQ. Would have helped AHQ during some of these extended team fights that we have been seeing. Now, though, Taipei J-Team looking to step back, and for AHQ, they have to kind of reevaluate how they look to approach some of these fights, because it didn't end up working now 2 times back-to-back.
Yeah, decent item spikes across the board for J-Team as well do mean that their team fighting is pretty solid if they want to fish for a pick with an Ash Arrow, with a Thresh Hook, with a crazy Kiana flank. My only reservation is that maybe you want to wait for the Karthus to finish his Leandries before you truly go crazy on some of these commitments. That being said though, Baron buff, not permanent, so you do want to be as proactive as possible as soon as possible, so don't be surprised to see J-Team just go crazy in a fight in the next couple of seconds.
Well, you saw there, Nestea was able to get himself the push. Trying to at least get that into the second-tier tower, which he will. That should open up toward the bot side of the map, but it looks like Taipei J-Team still waiting for Rest to actually push that past the river line. So instead, just try and push down their vision. Lil V, whoo, can feel that damage that comes out from this Jhin if he's not careful. One big chunky crit can easily knock him down to half health, but now there you go. Nestea comes back over, threatening the dive possibly here, but HQ with some decent wave clear.
Yeah, J-Team now positioning themselves in the bot side jungle of AHQ, meaning that AHQ would have to come through them if they wanted to rotate to stop Rest in
there
the
you
side
go.
arrow.
They get the arrow to connect. No cleanse available for Uniboy. Does have the stopwatch, and Woody's going to want that one back. Uniboy still not afraid. Ends up popping the ultimate. Requiem comes on through, and Hano will put him down to the ground on a rampage. Even though he had the exhaust, he can't exhaust the target from across the map. And there you go. Turret going to get knocked down in mid.
Oh, how the tables have turned. Instead of Lil V getting caught out on the Ashe, he is now the one catching the Syndra. Enchanted Crystal Arrow into Uniboy. Some fancy footwork, but you can't dodge out on the Requiem. Flash attempted to create some space, but how are you creating space from a global, I do not know. Tom Kench booking it out of their desync recalls on the side of AHQ, and J-Team more than happy to snap that one up.
And you know what's very scary now is that's only a rank 2 ultimate coming out from Hana, and that did what, about 600, 700 damage to Uniboy to kill him before the Dark Harvest. That's a bit concerning now, considering your Syndra, she is anywhere below half health. Likely going to have the ultimate come out from this Karthus and going to get some more cooldown reduction for himself. And for AHQ, options are starting to get a little bit more scarce, considering for Taipei J team, they'll continue to just scale and scale away.
Yeah, definitely do have to consider that AHQ are in a little bit of a sticky situation. J-Team, they have scaling on 2 of their carries. They have a crazy flank coming through from Nesty potentially as well to set up said carries. And honestly, this Qiyana is still doing enough that you can maybe consider her to be a 3rd carry, at least for the near future.
And these Dragon Pit fights are extremely dangerous when you're going up against something like a Qiyana. You do see, though, Nest-T wanted to push in the mid lane just a little bit to try and get some priority. Rest is on a flank, and you can tell AHQ, they're starting to become on the wrong side of the map, fully committing onto this Drake. Is that going to be the answer? Nest-T jumping on in, finds himself 2, maybe 3 stuns, and now jumps into the back line on the side of Rest. Call the Forge God from Civ, trying to delay the inevitable, and AHQ, they're actually able to disengage. Flash forward, though, comes out from Rest onto the back line. He finds himself a double kill. Woody gets the flay, and now, unfortunately, Uniboy has nowhere to run. Woody finds himself the kill, and with that, they are able to escape with Ysera, but that is the teleport to cut them off. AHQ, they have to roam back over toward the mid lane. Requiem coming back in. Kongyu almost gets taken down. Leandri's taken, but it's just not enough damage, and Taipei J team look to dominate over AHQ.
Yeah, I realized that Tom Kench ults out of that one, but can you ult out of this game? AHQ, they lose the fight. J-Team don't even take the dragon. Just say, look, we'll take the inhib and a Nexus tower and take AHQ by storm.
And you can just see how impactful this Qiyana pick can be, especially in around the terrain of the Dragon Pit. Can be very difficult for AHQ to find a fight in their favor. Rest as well, getting in onto that backline with a Renekton and picking up another Dragon. Here we go, though, AHQ. That is a full commit into the fight. Sure, Ziv is on the front line, but Kongyu on this volley bear just gets ripped apart. Rest just tips his hat, says thank you very much for the kill.
Wow.
Even dancing on the grave. Taipei J team confident to take home the victory over AHQ.
Yeah, a little bit of BM coming out of the J-Team top laner, but after weathering that storm that was a pretty mediocre early game, they deserve it. J-Team, look at the solo laners doing so much work here. Nesty, a beautiful supreme display of talent. Rest just going crazy on this Crocodile in the backline as well. And honestly, it's smooth sailing from here on out for the side of J-Team.
Unfortunately there too, we did see Ysera able to just nope
like
out of there.
Voyage.
He's like, get me out of here. But then teleports come on through. They get themselves the inhibitor towers, and now Taipei J team find themselves an 8,000 gold lead with a team comp that is, again, still scaling up. Hana is still not level 16, by the way, on this Karthus. Once that extra point into the ultimate, it's going to be rather devastating for both Wako and Uniboy. There isn't a whole lot of counterplay when you have a global ultimate that is pretty much unavoidable and you only have one Tom Kench.
To be fair, Ysera rushing the Locket does mean there is some degree of counterplay, but at the same time, yeah, these fights are pretty scary. By the way, the Syndra, sure, you ult the Karthus, cool, here's his passive. Sure, you ult Ash or Renekton, they have GAs, and here's a fight.
Fight though, but look at this, Nest-T on the flank. Does have supreme display of talent if he wants to try and pop it. They are just all around the red buff, but decides against it as he doesn't actually see where the rest of AHQ are. That does prevent Taipei J team from taking the Baron, but look toward bot lane. You have super minions that are now going to start crashing into the base. In AHQ, they have to make a decision on what they want to do. Civ does not have teleport. They have to commit to a fight. They have to force something, but Taipei J team, they're just stalling them out.
J-Team now just shoving in top with the help of Nesty. Bot lane shoving organically as well because of the super minions, and suddenly this Baron power play becomes very difficult for Kongyue and the rest of HQ to respond to.
And does he try and jump in here? Has the ultimate available. 2,000 health going for the steal, and he takes it away from Taipei J team. The hero play is there, but in comes the Requiem, trying to bring him down. Locket able to soak up a decent amount of damage, and with that, HQ, they're able to live for another day.
That being said, it's now a 5v4 and J-Team should be able to pull the trigger on another fight. Really good, clean, instinctive play coming through from Kongyue. The volley bear R base damage is so high that the smite combination with that burst the Baron from about 2k health. And honestly, AHQ, that was the miracle they needed to hold on in this game.
We'll see though if the hero plays are going to be rewarded for Kongyue, as it's still a steep hill to climb if you want to try and get your way back into this game, or again, you got to find more miracles, because in theory, we've kind of built it up as this Karthus is still just getting stronger as this game goes. It's still probably another 5 to 10 minutes until he's full built, and he's also running Dark Harvest. We also have Lil V that now pretty much online, is at 5 items, just needs to finish off his last, holding on to some control wards for the extra vision. And for AHQ, it comes down to, can you burst these targets and somehow disengage the fight at the same time?
Definitely does kind of put a huge burden on AHQ to actually do something with this Baron buff though, because sure, you won out on some crazy objective steal, but a team fight, a skirmish, different entities entirely when it comes to actually executing here. And yes, while a steal is cool, it's not a game clincher unless you win a subsequent team fight and then look to close out from it.
Also note too, you have 2 GAs online here for Taipei J-Team. Wako's been able to finish off his own. This Jin does some decent damage himself, but do see AHQ, they want to go ahead and try and set up around the Drake. Meanwhile, top lane, though, Rest is just pushing on in, has teleport available. Civ will have his come online here quite shortly. Interested to see whether or not Taipei J-Team have an idea of what that timer is. Nesty with a good flank. Kongyue, though, knows where he is. In comes the arrow, lands onto Uniboy. Can't pull the trigger just yet. Volley gets a little bit of damage, but there comes your teleport from Civ immediately to answer Rest. Nesty on a flank, wants to try and get a Supreme Display Talent. Might get collapsed on himself. He's not careful as Wako's trying to get a little bit of damage, but look back up into the river. Call of the Forge God into 3 members. Here comes Kongyue onto the back line, and there's your knockup onto the key carries of the side of Taipei J-Team, but
Requiem.
they take down Uniboy. Requiem's able to turn back some damage, and Rest on this Renekton has been unanswered this entire game, flashing forward onto Wako. Ysera's able to save him for just a little bit longer, but there is your kill. Shutdown taken down as Wako's able to get back a kill, but Hana is dominating. It's only Civ alive.
Teleport available for Lil V as well if Ash chooses to go for this one. J-Team, they could close off of this. They will try to close off of this. TPing to the mid lane. 3 Ocean Drakes for the sustain to boot, and should be able to transition this one into at least an inhib, if not a win.
And there you go. You got minions crashing in onto the base. Unfortunately, Civ, not a whole lot he can do. 6 seconds on Kongyue to respawn. Same with Uniboy. He's back up, so there is wave clear available. And it doesn't actually look like that Taipei J-Team will be able to take it in him.
Yeah, and the real catalyst towards this being decent looking for HQ was the fact this Kiana had such a rough time finding a flank. The massive AoE Volibear ult was beautiful too, but the aggressive flash forward from Uniboy got answered by an exhaust and a locket, meaning that his target didn't actually drop, and it meant that AHQ's teamfight was already down a carry. Basically Jin with 3 tanks at that point, and if the Jin has a Renekton in his face, well, surprisingly, the Jin can't play the game.
And you also got to note the fact that Rest wasn't at all really threatened during that fight on this Renekton. He hasn't been this entire game. Still has the GA passive available for himself for this next fight if he wishes to again dive in. It is impressive AHQ have been able to keep these fights close, but it still requires a lot more things to keep going in their favor.
Yeah, credit to Rest, by the way. Some Renekton mechanics came through that were fairly cool to see. Just juggled his Rage Bar by auto-attacking Tahm Kench, and then flashed for the empowered stun instantly onto the Jin before Wako could really have a chance to respond. Looking at J-Team's state of the map right now, though, they have a competent side lane in either solo laners, and then just float that rotating pick potential of the bot lane, plus the global threat of a level 18 Karthus, anywhere on the map that they choose.
Alongside that, too, that's a 13-stack Magi's online, alongside a Rabadon's being completed here for Hana as well. So another big spike of power onto this Karthus for this upcoming fight. Sure, Wako's been able to at least farm up a Storm when it comes to this Jhin, as well as get a couple kills himself, but still, everybody else on his team, Uniboy, if he gets caught out, doesn't really matter. In comes that arrow, does land on over to Kongyu. He'll be able to keep himself safe there as Death Sentence does not connect. But you see Taipei J team at least starting to set up toward the bot side of the map for possibly Ocean Soul.
Do you have the curtain call coming out now, just fishing for something? Not a whole lot of anything really going to materialize from that, as you do have Rest kind of floating with the rest of the team, because, hey, Renekton, no TP at this stage. That being said, though, Nesty, no such reservations, has his TP available and can escort these minion waves into the exposed inhibs of AHQ.
You see, wants to try and push that in, try and draw some pressure away, because Baron is up and available, and if they are able to secure it, it comes down here to Kongyu. Can he actually find another miracle steal? Nesty look for a flank possibly onto Wako if they are not careful, but you do see Death Sentence is going to connect onto Ysera. Forced to flash away on the Kench. W comes out from the Jhin. In comes that Requiem once again. Lock-in able to get some damage. Supreme Display Silent only finds one member. Call of the Forge God found a double knockup, and Lil V gets taken down. There's your main source of AD damage, but again, how much can you kite into the backline? Brings in the Kench. They want to try and get on top of this Karthus. They still can't do enough. Nesty still alive. Rest still on this front line. You have still 3 damage threats on the side of Taipei J team, able to carry it back. Uniboy, though, able to find the Scour of the Week, and Wako online with this Jhin. AHQ are able to find a fight in their favor.
No flash for the Karthus, no Requiem at the end of that, so you see J-Team on the full disengage. Because of that, AHQ able to chase it, able to follow up on it, and find themselves a very, very convincing fight.
And 40 minutes, AHQ are able to find their first Baron naturally in the game after stealing the first one, and it looks like this game ain't done yet. Even it looks so dreadful for this AHQ squad, they're able to somehow turn around these fights.
Yeah, just looking at the attempted pincer maneuver coming through from Nesty there. Locket really denying all the Requiem damage as well. Redemption fully heal to really nullify that entirely. Lil V, his positioning has been suspect this game, to say the very least, and honestly, that was no different. And then, yeah, you just have the attempted flank, the kind of pincer maneuver. It's not enough. It's not really what we were hoping for from J-Team, because they went from being able to cleanly close this to potentially losing Ocean Soul by the time we come out of this replay.
And let's take a look here as Nesty gets knocked up. Rest with the teleport, but there you go. Ocean Soul secured by AHQ. Nesty, though, jumps in. Rest pops the ultimate, wants to try and go for this play. Ysera has that pretty decent amount of health bar. Call the Forge God, though, is going to be used just for a disengage. Nesty still looking to possibly hunt for a supreme display of talent. Kongyu, though, just goes mid lane, says, all right, I'm taking the second tier tower, and that's now Soul in favor of AHQ, preventing the 4-stack Ocean going over to Taipei J team.
Yeah, Taipei J team now fishing for a fight if they can take it. The issue is with Baron buff and Ocean Soul, a straight up 5v5 is not the play here. They need to find a pick, they need to find some free kills, and they need to find a miracle flank from Nesty's Kiana.
Need that supreme display of talent to find, again, this Jhin as well as the Syndra on the side of AHQ. You take down both those carries, that is going to be the answer. But you do see AHQ not afraid to step up, as those are some big chunks coming out from this Jhin onto the inhibitor, and just like that, HQ are finally able to crack open the base. Engage comes out, and there you go. Take down the Karthus. Requiem will be available. It's going to come on down, but see those health bars. They're just too tanky. Sure, Uniboy goes on down. Nesty wants to jump into the backline. Still cannot find a supreme display of talent, though, in his favor. Gets rooted up once again. Lantern will get him back to safety. AHQ continue to push onto the base. Rest has yet to pop his GA. Lil V has his own back as well on this Ashe, but AHQ, they are not relenting.
Ocean Soul gonna sustain AHQ right back up as well, so they can still continue this fight.
Re-engage comes out. Lil V needs to carry the fight. Somehow rests onto the back line, able to get some damage. Lil V, though, cannot step forward. That is your issue. Risk gets knocked up. He gets taken down. And AHQ, they're able to bring it back all the way. Double kill coming out from Wako. And that's going to be the triple kill to cement their victory, taking down top team of the PCS. It's AHQ.
It was a back and forth game. It looked like either team could have closed at multiple moments, but it is AHQ that outlast J-Team. It is AHQ that make it all the way in this 45-minute slugfest.
And that's what I wanted to see out of our first place versus second place when it comes to the PCS. A proper back and forth game, and for Taipei J-Team, they looked like immortals for the last couple of weeks, but now AHQ able to take a victory off them, and it's kind of looking similar to what we saw previously with how Machi looked back in spring. They're able to beat every team except the teams right beside them in the standings, as AHQ and now PSG are both the lone victors when it goes up against Taipei J-Team.
I see. When you said they looked like immortals, you meant they looked like immortals, not like the NA organization immortals. I thought you were saying they looked like immortals this game, and I was like, kind of harsh, but okay, I see. They did kind of fail to close multiple times. Continue,
Briz.
Well, yeah, honestly, pleasantly surprised with how AHQ played that one out. Ziv, he's on Ornn. Can't really go wrong there. But yeah, a lot of decisive calls coming through from AHQ there, and yeah, pleasantly surprised with the fact they were able to walk away with a win there.
I'll be fair, I think we wrote off AHQ when it came to this game, especially after the Dragon. I think it was the third Dragon that went in favor of Taipei J-Team. It really felt like that game should have ended there. But unfortunately, they just weren't able to close things out, weren't able to clean up every single member of AHQ's base, and able to, again, Kongyu gets himself a steal off that first Baron that helps delay the game to the point that they are able to keep threatening. And it felt like that Taipei J-Team, they lost a lot of the confidence that they had earlier on, and Nesty, unfortunately, just could never find that flank he was looking for at the end of the game.
Yeah, unfortunately as well, some very suspect positioning from the big carry threats on the side of J-Team. And once they're down, yes, you have a Karthus, but he doesn't want to die quite yet. And Hana actually making the decision to not die in the enemy team does mean that by the time he does get dropped, unable to land extra lay waste, unable to really do much of anything. And yeah, just kind of rough. Syndra killing you from a screen away. Pretty standard at this point. Yeah, HQ. Play their comp well. Execute well. It took a while, but it certainly did work.
You say, well, the early game was not pretty, Abriz. Reminder, all right? You sound almost disappointed here.
First 10 minutes were.
All right, there you go. You all sound a little bit disappointed. Let's go ahead, though, and take a look at our post-game breakdown. It was a bunch. That was a big gold mountain there for Taipei J-Team. But HQ, they're able to reach the summit and bring it all the way back at the very end of this match, securing that final Ocean Drake to get the soul that they needed, helped regen during some of those later game team fights, and even when you're going up against a 42,000 damage Karthus, you can't say no to Kongyu, as he finds himself the MVP on the volley bear here for AHQ.
Yeah, the Baron steal really coming in huge for him this game, making a case for himself for that MVP pretty much exclusively off of that. I do also want to mention the fact that looking at Nesty on Kiana, he was such a driving force behind J-Team's resurgence around the 12 to 25 odd minute mark, but then stopped finding picks, stopped finding flanks, and stopped really finding much use of anything.
So with that, AHQ now, they will be able to claim sole possession when it comes to second place overall in the PCS, now sitting 9-3, and also, I believe now that forces a possible tie break with them and Taipei J-Team, as that now equals out the series score, you could say, 1-1 when it comes to the double round robin. So some implications possibly when it comes towards playoffs. Let's go ahead though and take an interview on over with our MVP alongside
OK， 那我们这里有
Patty.
几个问题想要问你，就是现在镜不是 T1 的一个角色，但是你们选择用这只角色来对抗小 V 的一个艾希嘛？你觉得对线的优势在哪里？或者说你们有什么考量会选出镜的这一敌？
So Jin is not a Tier 1 champion for ADC at the moment, but you guys chose it today to play against Little V's Ashe for ADC. So why do you guys choose it? Is it because that Jin has any advantages over Ashe during the laning phase?
现在就是因为艾希很多人在玩，然后进打艾希的优势就是基本上都能推线，只要有打野靠，然后小龙团就能先开。其实两只特性是差不多，只是进可以先推线。
So Jin is good against Ashe when Jin has help from jungler, and Jin has advantage over Ashe in pushing lanes, and it will help us with the Drake fight. So that's why we chose it today.
对，那第二个问题我想问你们，今天其实遇到的是联盟目前占据第一的台北 J 战队，那你觉得这是一场非常刺激的比赛？你觉得这一 team 最难处理的点位是哪一个点位呢？
So you guys were facing the top team in the league, Taipei J team today, and this was a really fun game to watch. You guys have a lot of back and forth. So what do you think is the hardest part to fight to conquer when you guys were fighting against J team?
其实 J team 线上我自己都觉得还好，主要是他们5打5的团基本上没什么失误，然后大家都沟通得很好，所以他们最难打的点应该就是团战吧，因为他们不太会有什么失误。
So I think during laning phase, it's not that hard to play against them, but during the 5 versus 5 team fights, they're really strong with that, and they don't really make any mistakes. So I think that is probably the hardest part to conquer when we're fighting against Taipei J team.
OK， 那我们感谢空月接受我们的采访，也恭喜 AHQ 在比赛获得胜利，希望你们在后面持续加油。不过刚刚接受。
Well, see, there are a lot of respect at least coming out from AHQ, understanding that the 5v5 fights were rather close when it came to that one, and always a strong point, it seems, right now for Taipei J team, which I say that's one hell of a compliment you got to take in retrospect to considering the performances we saw back in spring, and that Taipei J team are still at the top of the standings when it comes to the PCS.
Yeah, absolutely. While on the other hand, you have AHQ kind of quietly making their surge upwards. You said it yourself, they could challenge in a tiebreaker. And honestly, I'm now looking at Liab versus Taipei J team. As we've seen, Liab now upset AHQ, Liab upset PSG, round out that trinity with an upset over the other one. And we can confidently say that PCS predictions are really difficult to make.
Well, Briz, I can barely hear you. It looks like we're going to go to a break. When we come back, though, it's going to be our next match. It's going to be Brajaya taking on Alpha.
CTBC Bank is Taiwan's top financial institution, but we're not stopping there. We're crafting an international brand and already have over 260 outlets in 14 countries. We are by your side, ready to embrace the future.